Hi, this is Gandon, and I am making a video here. Veterans Day. Seems a little bit apt to be doing a tactical war game. What do you call that, a war game? Well, yeah, why not? Has to do with war. 7-year war. And I'm going to talk about some of the tips and tricks around the game, and then we're going to see a couple of battles. I'm going to try to keep it relatively short, but there's a few things that I need to go through. So just bear with me. So we're going to talk about an army, setting up an army, the things that I do, and also a lot around the itemization. There are a couple of things we can go through in a particular, inside a community like this one right here. But first, let's fight a little battle. So this is your atypical late game Act 3 type battle. Even the smaller ones, they seem to have a decent amount of units. The way I set mine up, I'm going to be roughly around 14 to 16,000 depending on what kind of army I'm using. This is the Austrian army. The enemy will generally have a little bit more, as you see. They have one whole open brigade, so they can be all the way up to 20, 22,000 in a full-size army, such as the headquarter army. Now my setup is generally that I have 3 infantry brigades with 1 artillery unit in them, 1 cavalry brigade, which is just all cavalry, of course, and then we have an artillery regiment or artillery brigade. That's going to be all artillery, and I'm going to showcase how I position that, what I take advantage in the actual terrain, and then of course I'm going to showcase as far as the different materials that I use that you can get from any other cities or from the battlefield itself, and why I do it the way I do. Just so you can see how that affects both accuracy, range, damage, etc. But let's take a look at the battle here. Now, force setup is very straightforward. Always check out the terrain. Have a basic idea how far you can go without, running directly into the enemy. You don't necessarily want them to be firing at you at length while you're trying to move up, or even meet you in melee combat right away. In general, you can get about here, as they will normally move up a little bit, then try to have an artillery duel with you before they starting their go into your face, get into your face type of fighting. So I'm just gonna set up my cavalry unit relatively centrally, and then just watch how they move their actual, how they're gonna move their cavalry, and then just move my cavalry to that to kind of blunt their way of flanking you, getting behind you, and destroying your artillery. Here we go. Also, try to keep your Leopold Joseph one down, or whoever is your leader, close to, if you have a supply train. Supply train will lose morale on its own and then bolt. Also try not to keep them too close while you're doing the artillery stuff, because artillery seems to hit pretty hard. And I think it has to do with the fact that a Austrian supply train is just one unit. If they have 4 or 5 artillery units firing, we'd say a relatively high chance of hitting 50% or whatever that might be, then it's a lot easier for them to knock out your particular supply train, since it's just one unit they have to hit. Whereas the damage generally get dispersed on a larger unit, so that's not going to be necessarily as effective with one shot. So one artillery unit fired at your infantry unit will kill some, but not that many. Whereas it's a much greater hit chance for it to knock out your supply train. But keep your main boss relatively close to it in the beginning when you keep it back a little bit. That way it won't bolt on its own when it starts losing morale. That's what I've noticed anyway. So we are now going to set these guys up. In general, how I build this is I usually keep the leader unit, that's going to be leader attached to that unit, the first one in the brigade. I keep them offset as a reserve, just because I don't want them necessarily to be running away the first thing they do, or take excessive damage and possibly risk your high-end officer, especially at this deep into the game in Act 3. You're probably going to have one with full skills that you have built up pretty neatly, and you don't want to lose that one. You're going to move that guy up there. Same thing here, hold him back. And let's go ahead and do this guy here. That guy back here. And where did I move this guy? Yeah, he's moving there. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Looks good. And then the artillery unit. I'm just going to place it here, a little bit higher. Also keep in mind you can't switch over to grape when you're on a hill. For some reason it can't shoot fire grape when you're on a hill. And you will, well, it can't shoot it close by. It can shoot it further away. Some kind of weird sighting sloping issue. I don't know what the case is, but it will stop firing at some turn. So you can switch over to ball at that turn and it's going to start firing. Ball works fine on a hill, but apparently not grape. Move that guy up here. Keep him back. And then just move this guy up here. Cool. And then finally, I usually just put the artillery in the center for simple reasons. That's where you can reach most, even the guys on the flank, and that's usually where they're going to have the heaviest amount of infantry coming, so you definitely want to knock that out. And generally move down their artillery too. But we are probably going to move this one, like something like here. And there we go. I'm not so worried about how he moves the cavalry this early on. In general, it's going to be fairly close to his artillery. And then they are going to start flanking. Okay. Yep, they are already in place because I have really slow artillery. So you are going to start firing there. Focus fire on their artillery. They're not going to have as many pieces as you for most part. So knocking them out early is always good. I don't know why that one is not firing at artillery. Let's go ahead and do that. That one is almost here, so we can unlimber that one. And these are all done. Now, let's see if I can actually reach him with my... Almost. Yeah, that's very tempting. So we can fire all the way here with our grape. I decided to just invest in some of the largest cannons, and also in turn I decided to invest in pretty much anything that would increase range, accuracy, and whatnot. I'm going to showcase the different item pieces later on. So right now I'm actually firing grape. And grape is one of the most efficient way. So he's moving right now on the flank. That was quick. Generally, they don't go completely flank like that. I'll limber you. Oh, so there we go. We knocked him out. Let's go ahead and try to knock that one guys out too. And he is gone. Perfect. So all of their artillery got knocked out, I think. Are you fleeing? No, he actually is moving closer. But not anymore. Let's see if we can knock out one of those two. Just make their cavalry a little bit weaker. I don't care so much about my other cannons as far as what they're doing. They're gonna in general support any of their units. That one is too far away still. How about you? Oh, he's getting very close. I'm going to back off a little bit. I don't want to be in firing range with any of the infantry. That will demoralize and destroy my units pretty quick. These guys can now move up. Since I have... No, supply train got hit? No. What is going on with these supply trains? That must be a bug. They gotta have to fix that. The supply trains can't be hit that far back. He didn't have that range. So weird. So stupid. It's gotta have to be a bug. I can't think that that's actually how it should be. Oh, they're moving hard on the flank, huh? You better get that. Get that over here. You're also going to move that guy here. So we have the reserve moving up and covering that flank. Oh, he must have been smacked pretty good with artillery too. We're going to switch over to this one. So quarter shot has a shorter range. This is the best range rifle that I have. But as you can see, quarter shot also increases damage. And he still have a really high-end rifle on that one, with everything added for extra range and accuracy. So that adds a tremendous amount of accuracy at max range. And it's just a perfect way to increase the damage potential. You're going to see he has kind of a ludicrous accuracy on that one. And that's a skirmisher. In general, I don't really dabble with skirmishing units that much. But I decided to do an experiment, and I just realized that you can make those pretty gnarly. Of course, they can't stand a charge or anything, so you better back it off if something comes close enough to charge. Okay. Gotta bend a little bit. Yeah, they're about to charge. And I usually switch over to box shot and other means just to so their hits really take off. I'm just gonna go for flank here. All of them, 4 of them. That is not happy. So let's see if we can okay. That didn't turn out the way I wanted. You can go there. And these guys are too slow and heavy. I'm gonna lose a bunch of guys on this one. Yeah, Grenzel Hussars there. Don Cossacks. Oh, that was not a good exchange. That didn't go so well. My Austrian Dragoons and Grenzel Hussars got really nailed. Yeah, that didn't turn out too well at all. Actually, I think I'm going to back this guy off. That's my leader. I don't want him to get all. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to try to destroy his morale by shooting at him. Yeah. That's the nice thing with buckshots. It really is a nasty way of doing things. Okay, so far so okay. Switch over to buckshot here. Probably gonna have to do this. Otherwise, it's gonna start flank attacking that guy. Let's do that, and let's move this guy up here. Okay, so it looks like these guys are pretty tenderized if you look at their morale and the unit count. So we are gonna move these guys up and flank fire them with buckshots. It's always nice. Let's see if I... Oh, he retreated. He had enough. Yeah. He got done. Hopefully these guys won't turn and all of a sudden fire my grandson hussars, because they're about to bolt. So let's go ahead and just flank fire a little buckshot and see how long it lasts. Oh, he's... Okay, he was taking a lot. I'll go ahead and tenderize him a little bit of that. Best way to get rid of units so they won't come back is just to keep attacking them until they break and shatter. That way you know that they're gonna run off. Now, I don't think there's any point for me to go in for experience at this point. I think most of my units have been upgraded as max as they can, so... What do we need? We need provisions, right? Okay, so let's do a little bit provision. And then let's check out the unit, how they are set up, and then find another fight, and that's gonna be it. So I have, these are mostly units that have been given to me through going to the different places. There will always be some kind of setup where, like a mini quest. You have choices, you sacrifice a staff sergeant or one of the staffers, and then you get a unit instead. Or you take their ammunition, and for that you rescue another troop, and then you get thrown into a fight. So these are maxed out. I probably lost out on a number of different units. You can't sell units. You can just disband them. So sometimes I will see if they have anything on them, like a better weapon, and then just steal that, as you can see. It's always good to have something in reserve. That's pretty good. This one, actually, I can upgrade. Let's just do that. So let's go through these units a little bit. Just so you get an idea how I build them up, what I think about, what my basic strategy is before I showcase another battle. You can also see that all my officers have all their skills. In general, what I try to do is something that's beneficial for that type of unit. Infantry, for example. So most of these are going to be something like movements, cover effectively, more cover, grenade tossing, but also melee damage, and then of course morale. Anything that will keep them in the fight longer. These ones going to be more like melee, charge, movement, charge, movement, stamina. This one I think I picked out wrong, but move speed is still good. That one is slightly better on something that you're going to fire a lot with, but still works. And of course, the artillery one have two different artillery things. So let's take a look at an infantry unit. I use a 3-1 formula. which is 3 infantry units, 1 artillery piece. You can do any blend you want. If you just want all infantry, or say 2 infantry and 2 artillery, you certainly can. I like the idea of having a unit in reserve because that have worked for me many times. I put the officer unit in the reserve, and then as things break or start getting really mauled up and you don't really want them to shatter and possibly be completely destroyed because you lose all the items, it looks like, too. I will usually trade spaces then and bring up the reserve units. And it works most of the time, I would say. And it's also nice to have a stopgap too in the case that they flank you and not necessarily break your unit. So you want to move something to block that action. I build them fairly much like this. I'm going to have something like the Cheval de Friche. You have the stakes in the ground, but stakes in the ground is cover base 15 and charge resistant 20. Whereas this one is cover base 20 and charge resistant 35. Now this is the excellent one, but even the most basic ones can still be a better choice. You want to be able to add as much cover as possible, especially if you put it behind a hedge. And you'll definitely want to have some charge resistance because you want to take a blunt away from any cavalry charge incoming. I usually do grenades. You can interchange that with something like the cartridge boxes, especially if you're worried about consumption of ammo. I have noticed, however, that unless it's an extremely long, windy fight, you will most likely never have to worry about running out for ammo on your infantry. It's a little bit different with your artillery, but that's why I prefer to have grenades. Now, grenades are relatively short range. You can certainly find grenade types that are a little bit longer, maybe have the skill, like in this case, that adds a little bit longer grenade throwing range. But they are still gonna park their unit and fire at maximum range at you. So that's gonna be most likely further away than you can toss a grenade. But there would be opportunities where maybe they are starting to charge you. So if you time it right, you can hit them with some grenades. They do a relative few damage. It feels like it's less damage than it should be for that many grenades that you toss from the front line. But it's always nice to have something like that. I will always have a ramrod. The iron ramrod, there are 2 different type of ramrods. I'm not sure if I have any of them here. Looks like I've distributed. Let's see if I have it on another unit here. Oh, there we go. So this one is reload and accuracy. So that's a better one, the cylindrical ramrod. It's a very nice thing to have, because what you want to do is make sure that you boost the things that you want to get out of it the most. So if you are going to use yours as just frontline melee and charge in and, you know, stab them with a bayonet, yeah, you might want to set it up a little bit different and find items that boost those particular issues. That can be something like stamina in order to push forward for a longer period of time. I prefer this setup because I also include this one. That's the Shepherd's Axe. It's an excellent unit that both aids with the cover of your unit, so you take less incoming damage, and it also adds melee damage, so you have some way of fighting off a unit. In particular, if that unit that you've been fighting with is pretty beat up, there's a strong chance that you can survive the incoming charge. You have your cover, like the Cheval de Friche. You have all the other cover bonuses, and then of course you have some way of smacking back. I always use some kind of treatise. It depends on what you want that unit to do, but there are several different ones that, for example, if you look at this one, both infantry and cavalry can have that one. That's morale and melee damage. Obviously much better on a cavalry unit that you're going to charge with, but if you are one of those that want to fire a couple of times and then charge in and devastate and destroy, then you're going to build for morale, maybe lower incoming damage from melee, and then adding something that a treatise that adds more of this kind of stuff, like the morale and melee damage. I usually have some kind of musicians. There are several different ones. This one adds morale so you can stay in the fight longer. And of course, charge in the case I want to have to get into fracas. There are a host of other ones that can be really useful, like this one. That is morale and move speed. So if you want to get into position a lot quicker, you probably want to uniformly build most of the unit in that brigade for speed. Just so you can get in there, set up, start doing your thing, and hopefully be able to fight them at distance before they can get into close by. This one I also added a cover bonus with max range. That's more ideal in something like a skirmish unit, which already have distance shooting, and it's more of trying to clobber them at range before you have to start moving back, before you get charged. Because again, skirmish units, a lot less infantry units, and much easier to route in an attack. But again, this one happened to have some kind of move speed. This one is 6 and 10. And then, of course, it has this one, morale and 6. So that's a very maneuverable unit. This one has a little bit move speed in that one. This one I had just over, so I used it. Cover bonus and max range. Very nice to have on any infantry unit. And for rations, I used a coffee. For infantry, I used tea, as you will see for the for the artillery units, because it has the reload and movement speed, so you can get into position a lot quicker. You definitely want your infantry stuff to move up quicker than your artillery. Yes, it's always good to have artillery roughly in the same pace, but you need those infantry to get into position quick before the enemy starts taking the better cover positions. It's always better to get there and be able to force them to stand in the open firing at you while you're getting all the cover bonuses from being behind a hedge or fence or something like that. And for artillery units, and in general, that's going to be true with this one, which I put the furthest firing cannons on. I would replace this one, of course, which is 465 as a base. I will replace that whenever I ever find something better, and I have given all the better stuff to these people, to this artillery brigade as it is. Even though, so the trade-off here, if you look at, say, going with a larger bore, or for that matter, something that shoots further away, such as a 16-pounder howitzer, the negative is, in general, that it's going to be less accurate and longer reload time. That's generally how it is. Just keep that in mind. But my hope is that by being able to fire at an enemy further distances as they march towards you, you're going to be able to do a lot of damage, especially if you focus on adding something like accuracy as skills and items. So, unless I can upgrade this one, can I? Yeah, let's go ahead and upgrade it. Higher accuracy. Always nice. In general, I will add earthworks. So why not any of the other ones? Well, earthworks adds more cover and less charge resistance. You don't ever want to be in a situation where they can charge into you, because your artillery will not survive. They can't even get a decent sword. They're not really meant to be able to survive a charge from an infantry unit and cavalry unit anyway. So investing a lot of melee or charge resistance or anything like that is pointless. You are going to be routed. Hopefully not shattered and destroyed, but most likely that's going to happen. You definitely want to have canister rounds. There are 3 types. So this is the basic canister round. That's usually about like 25 in damage, you see on the excellent here, with a max range of 46. I do believe the max range is around 50 in deduction if you're using the basic one. So there's a slight improvement on that one. If you look at the double one, it's even worse. I don't use double because in general I want to be able to fire these grape shot rounds as far out as possible. So doing a little bit less damage, but having to be able to do that in a further distance is to me kind of key. I will always use something like Gunner's Implement. It just adds with the reload. Elevation screws, yes, it gets some drawback on the reload, but it increases the max range. Reload a max range with these particular treaties. There's a couple of ones that you can use. I like this one because it gives you two of the things that you absolutely like to see in an artillery unit. I also started using the Regimental Staff Marksman. Again, reload speed's a little bit lower, but this one adds so much accuracy, so it's definitely worth. It's kind of one of those trade-offs that you do, right? The trade-off here is that, yes, you reload a little bit slower, but every shot you make is going to be so much more accurate. You can go for the opposite, that you have a high reload speed and maybe not the same kind of accuracy, but all you do is just go through your ammunition a lot faster, as opposed to be able to hit pretty accurately. For this, I can do something like a full gators, which is really nice. Any kind of movement speed to get there as quick as possible. I do that most with anything that's part of a infantry unit, just because you want to keep that at pace and not fall too behind. Being able to get there in the front line, as you saw, most of the artillery units or most of the infantry units was up there faster into cover, whereas it takes a little bit longer for these, because here you have 20, right, compared to 37, or in this case 45. It's got to take a while for this particular one to get into place. And as I mentioned, T rations, it's accuracy in reload speed. Now that translates pretty well to this. As you can see, the basic range here is 465. This one has an increase to a 605 in range, and that is due to the officer I'm using, and in this case the officer has probably some kind of range improvement as part of it, like that one right there. And then it's due to some of the other items that I have here. Accuracy is 91, and it's going to be less at max range, but this is cannon, so firing at max range and doing it more with a lot of more units, you will hit. And as you notice in the previous battle that I did, I knocked out those artillery units pretty quickly because I mass fired with grape, which increases accuracy, just lowers range. That will just make this one hit so much better. And then as you have knocked out all those artillery units, you can then start focusing maybe on mauling a couple of cavalry units before they can do their job, or mauling any infantry that gets really close. It's pretty intense when you start working on that kind of thing. Stamina, very important. The more stamina you have, the longer you can stay in a battle without starting to slow down. And that's about it. Anything that can lower the reload time is always good. Range and accuracy, very important. Here, if you're looking at the infantry unit, range is what it is. That's going to be the range of your rifle. I generally take the rifles that can shoot the furthest, because I want to do as much damage as possible sustained over time. Accuracy, it is important. I would say that anything that's close to 70 is pretty good. But I also trade it off to how much less damage do I want to take, such as with the cover work and stuff like that. And reload time is, of course, important too. Being able to reload a lot faster just means that you have higher damage per second under normal circumstances. 84 melee is not bad at all. This unit can sustain itself for a fairly long time. Morale itself, where do we have that one? Right there, 74. That's not bad at all either. So that's how I build it. That's your basic infantry unit, and that's your basic artillery unit. Now let's take a look at cavalry. Here, having a carbine is fine, but I'm as you noticed, what I tried to do with one of the cavalry unit is fire at it enough so it breaks. And then if it just runs away, I can always charge it to shatter it. I got unfortunate that a couple of my units were a little bit too faster because I think they're lighter cavalry, which meant that they got pretty mauled, like my boss unit that lost over half the men. Thank God it didn't shatter or break. But I build them fairly the same. You're going to have some kind of horse. There are several different types of what they do. One that has morale, charge, move speed, things like that. Melee damage is what I'm going for because I want, after I have been firing off the buckshots, I want it to hit hard. I do this one. There's a couple of ones. I don't do the one that lowers the max range a lot. That's like a double buckshot ammo. I like this one because the range is fairly decent and the accuracy is fairly decent for the range. So you can fire them probably all over your units before they charge. And with any luck, if you're firing with several different units, you can break them before they can actually charge into you. If you go with the other ammo, yes, the accuracy is going to be much higher, but the range is also going to be so low that most likely you're not going to be able to fire all your weapons before they're in charge, like they in close combat with you. I do riding boots. There are many different choices as far as what you can do instead, and it all depends on what your idea with it. But I like speed to be able to move side laterally. You will notice that most enemy units will go to any flank. It's not necessarily which one. I think that the AI works to choose something where there is a big gap where you might have lost a decent amount of units and you start getting demoralized, or where you don't have a lot of cavalry as far as presence. So I place my cavalry generally fairly center and then move as quickly as I can to the flank where I think they're going to mass. They don't split this much, which is probably something that might change with the updates when they're talking about AI improvements. They tend to try to take all their cavalry one way in order to either overwhelm that flank or flank around completely and then start trashing your artillery. So keep track on them. That's always a good thing, especially on the minimap, those triangles. So we have that. So we have ammo, light saddles. There are two different saddle types. I like the one that adds the move speed, but the other one also adds melee damage. If you want to anchor your cavalry unit more on that. I like this one, Great Coast, melee damage received. So you lower the incoming damage and attrition. And that's very nice. There are others that add more of a protective layer, but I also have negatives like in speed because you're heavier. I like this one, the Berations. There are some different ones. I like this one because of the morale boost and the melee damage boost. And then, of course, Treatise. There's a couple of ones. The morale one with the melee damage is pretty decent. That way you stay in the fight, you don't break, and you dish out more damage. And then finally you had the blanket rolls, which is less attrition or less melee damage. As you can see, I try not to take as much damage, and I'll try to dish out more and survive it. Firing, as far as accuracy, that really doesn't matter. Once you start switching over to this ammo, you're going to hit. It's just a question if it's worth it enough to be firing. Flank firing like I did with that one is generally just to see them break, like with the infantry. I want to fire, break them, and then chase them down. I don't want to get into a fracas, especially if your units have started taking some damage, because there's a lot more of infantry unit can stick you than you have the cavalry units to do any major damage once they haven't broken. Yeah, you don't want to start running into infantry units that are fairly robust and haven't taken a lot of morale damage or anything like that, because that will trash a lot of your cavalry unit pretty quickly. And finally, let's take a look at the skirmishing unit. A skirmishing unit is a dispersed formation that is really good at distance firing and takes a lot less damage. I like this setup, and I do believe I can upgrade to the better one now, the sharpshooters. Let's go ahead that. So that's going to be slightly fewer units, but the accuracy is pretty high. Okay. So with something like a skirmishing unit, they're not good at taking a hit from charge or melee or anything like that. So you're better off just running away with them that way. I always do a cover. Doesn't really matter what kind of bayonet you put on them. They might put up a little bit of a fight, and especially if the unit attacking you is kind of damaged. But just keep in mind, there's a lot fewer of your units. A lot fewer. So most likely even some of the recruit type rookie units will be able to clobber you. That's my experience. I like these Jagger rifles. Those are the longest firing, furthest firing, but it's also longer reload time. So you're going to have to think about that when you start adding items, is that you want to boost on this one some survivability, but most likely reload speed, accuracy, and range. Not melee, because you don't want to stay in melee with something like this. I'm not saying 4 to 7 is bad. That's pretty decent. But you will melt. And especially against the charging cavalry. In that case, I do something like a quarter musket bolts. That's actually pretty decent. They will add... You will lose some range, but it will add enough accuracy to make up for it. Most of the time, an enemy unit will move into their shorter range. So by then, that easily compensates for the loss of range on your unit. So once that happens, switch over to the better ammo and do a lot more damage. As you can see right now, pretty decent morale on this unit. Very good range. 189 is very good. The most basic on this particular rifle is 173. Okay? If you look at most normal rifles, like this one is 155. And that's a really good rifle. This one has a range of 170 because of the different choices in items. And that's not bad at all. This one starts out at 173. And because of all the other choices that I made, it is at 189. I will be able to fire with this unit much further out before the enemy can close the range, which they will generally do fairly quickly. But then you look at the accuracy. So even if I change over to the hollow point, I think they call the hollow point, quarter musket ball, sorry. It's kind of like a hollow point. Before I switch over to that, I'm not going to lose that much, and I can continue doing even more accurate fire at that range. I will, of course, do something like ramrods. This one I can upgrade to something better. Do I have something better? This one is the reload time for that. Well, let's see if I can find someone in the city somewhere. But this one I still have some options to upgrade. So ramrods. This one is good too. So that's a gun pick. That's reload time and stamina. So that's why my reload time is pretty decent. I have the military treatise cleric, which is cover bonus and max range. So together with that one, I can take less income damage. And since I'm in dispersed formation, I take less damage from that. And then I like this one. Even though it lowers the reload time a little bit, it also has a tremendous amount of accuracy. That's what you want out of something like this. You can certainly think about finding something else other than health gators or full gators. They can be something that, like this one, for example. Maybe you want to do more ammo for a sustained fight. Or you can find something like this one, blanket rolls for attrition and melee damage. But again, you want to stay away from things that have anything to do with melee, because that's not really where you want to be. You don't want to build a skirmishing unit that's around 600 to 800 for being able to sustain melee. And grenades is the same thing. Why bother with grenades on something where you want to maximize the range against the enemy? I could change to this one, which is an upgrade. So now I have max range plus 15. 198. It's not bad at all. That one I could replace with morale and move speed. Yeah, that's pretty good. But move speed and stamina is pretty good too, because that just means that you're going to be able to keep up that fire rate a much longer time. And of course with this one I do T rations. I don't do... see this one. I don't do the coffee rations for reload and move speed. I want to be able to do the accuracy one and reload. So I don't worry necessarily about movement, but 53 is not bad for movement speed on this guy. Not at all. What really is the good stuff is the 198 and 132. Very well built. So that is my unit and my army in essence. We're going to have 3 infantry units, 3 units in each, or brigades, 3 regiments of infantry in each. I'm going to have 1 artillery unit, and then we're going to have 1 artillery brigade and 1 cavalry brigade. That's generally how I run it. Once I start building out the brigades, that's how I want to do it. Since we have talked enough about that, do I have anything good? That one decent. I wonder if I need more of those. Let's see. Oh, I'm running low on... I need to sell some stuff out here. I think I'm good with everything that I have to do with them. Maybe one of those. I don't know. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Let's see here. Yeah, we can start replacing that right away. In fact, did I have golden shoes? Yeah, I had golden shoes, man. But I can... I hope to fix this whole sorting stuff. This just looks awful. There we go. Got a little bit better here. For the high-end ones, as you can see, I have this 520 in range normally. I have really made this one that can shoot far distance, 910. That's pretty good. And as you can see, it also has the better grape shot round, which is less damage per grape shot, but the max range is much, much further out. That's why I can annihilate entire units pretty far out, especially with this brigade. Let's find another battle. 20,000. So this one is 5 brigades. They're going to have a lot of artillery. This is a weird mix to me. Having a cavalry unit and infantry together. Yeah. Oh, they have a lot of cavalry. Oh my gosh. 5 units of cavalry? Oof. That's tough. Oh well. I'm going to have to watch my flanks pretty good. Okay, this map. So that means we're going to have to river crossing here. We can put our artillery there and then do something here, block them in here. So we're going to put these 2 here. Those 2 here. Gotta move this one here. You're gonna go here in the middle. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that, honestly. My my supply train always either get hit or skims away. It has to be a bug. It can't be how it is. Let's start with this unit right here. 1 in reserve. One here. One here. And artillery unit there. Reserve. I mean, it's a little bit further away than I want from the actual units, but you can move up pretty quickly. Just plug in a gap. That's going to be my skirmishing unit. That's the best. Anything with houses and things like that, that's really good cover. Artillery. This one we're going to have to stretch out as much as possible. And then finally, our artillery. It's just going to go right here. And then you. He's going to get hit. The supply train is just going to go. It's just the way it is. So stupid. Supply train. Boss man. Did I just move? Yep, I did. That's where I want you to go. I want you guys to be stretching out like this. Let's go. Oh, maybe I should move this one more centrally. That's a lot of infantry and a lot of cavalry. And they're gonna get their artillery to start firing at me quickly. Perfect. So you can start by scraping that guy. I generally don't have to mass fire if I'm within grape shots distance. That usually plays out pretty well. Come on. I'll limber. There we go. They're close. Oh, geez, he got in there fast. I'm gonna have to do that. I'm just gonna unlimber these guys. Okay, so he is smacking him a grape. That's good. Hopefully I can get that fire him pretty soon. And these ones are gonna grape that one. I know. It's a TikTok term. I can't help it. It's still grape shot. I'm still gonna get call it that. I apologize. So he broke because he got smacked in the face hole. Did I break both of them? That was more than one unit, right? Ah. Ooh. Dang. That was intense. That is... Wow. These guys and grape shots. Are you in place? How far? Yeah, well, pretty decent. They are now firing at my guy. He's punishing them with grape. Okay, so let's keep track of the... Yeah, I'm gonna have to move this guy up. I don't want to get them too close here. Okay. Speed up a little bit. And watch those cavalry units. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can punish those cavalry unit right there. If I can start breaking some cavalry unit, that's pretty sweet. Let's go ahead and move that out a little bit more. That way, he will stop. So let's go ahead and switch this one over to... Yes, lose some range. But he's still well within range. Accuracy is going to be high. Oh, look at that. That cavalry unit got trashed. That is efficient. Oh, he's going to break soon. There's no ways he can take that kind of damage. Nope, he's gone. Let's go ahead and see if I can just punish that one guy too. So let's go ahead and angle this one a little bit. It's always nice to be able to get rid of a cavalry unit like that before they have a chance to do anything shenanigans. Otherwise, my guys are looking pretty decent. Oh, here it comes. Yeah, he's coming. Are you gonna go down the center? Oh, I have a feeling they're going for my skirmish unit. Yep, I have a feeling they're doing that. Okay, grape. Not grape, buckshot. And we are just gonna stay right here. Just really close, overlapping with that. So if they charge, they're gonna get the face full of buckshots. And hopefully, we can start aiming. No, not move. Don't move. Just fire that dude. Come on. Start firing. So he's just going to go straight across my T like that. Let's see if I can hit them with some grenades. He doesn't have grenades. Oh, yeah. They're coming right down the middle. Dude. Hammer that dude. Yeah, they are. Let's pull you back, man. Let's see if my cavalry can just break someone. Yeah, they're all firing good box shots. Look at that. Oh, nice. Shattered. Cool, cool, cool. What can my artillery do here? Yeah, let's go ahead and get that one. Why are you not firing at something like that? Come on, man. Are you just staying there? Well, let's try some grenade again then. Oh, yeah. Grenaded. That is the question. Should I... Ah, he might be ready to. Yeah, I might have to. That one looks a little bit beat up. I'm just gonna move that guy up here again. Hopefully he can survive that. I'm not so worried about this one. I mean, they're Hungarians. Nothing wrong with the Hungarians, but they are pretty weak. What am I... Why did I do that for? Am I being stupid or something? Yeah, I am. Oh. Sad. There you are. Oh god, my... No, we don't want to charge into... Look how my Grenzel Hussars are getting clobbered. Come on. Yeah, broke him. Can't I just go after that one instead? Let's see here. That one is coming back. Let's go ahead and see if we can give him some. Just motivate him too. Yeah, it looks pretty fresh. Let's go ahead and see if we can break that guy. Yes. Yes. Just what I wanted. What is that? That's the one I already have. Oh, one more of that. Now all the big guys are going to have one of those. Okay, cool. There you have it. Tips and tricks. How to set up your forces. How to be able to beat larger forces. And take advantage of terrain. Setup of units. And having a big smacker. That's always good. Like having a artillery brigade. It's nice because you can focus fire and shatter entire units with a salvo like that. Very nice. I managed to destroy that, and probably at max range too for the grape shots, but I managed to destroy that cavalry unit completely. That's pretty sweet. And it didn't take that much fire either for my artillery to destroy their artillery. And that's important. The sooner you get that out of the way, the more you can concentrate on doing all the other stuff. And as you can see, I lost 1,500 men. He lost 10,000. That's a pretty... I mean, we're talking about almost 10 to 1 in kill ratio. Almost, maybe 9 to 1 or something like that. And that was a much larger unit, too. And I captured 7,000 of them. The question is, do I need reserves? Yeah, that's probably a good thing. And I am getting... Oh, campaign move speed. Yeah, that's easy. And there you have it. This is an Act 3 setup, but this is pretty much how I make it across any of the Act 1 or 2. I build it up fairly the same way. I might do something like a full artillery brigade before I start dispersing artillery among the different units. So in general, these will be all infantry until I have a full of that and start having to get the few extra artillery like you see here in order to fill out the rest of the units. But it will generally follow the same pattern. I don't really mix units like with cavalry. It's a little bit... It gets more difficult in order to control it that way. I rather have a brigade without a specific officer just so I can maneuver it a little bit better without moving everything by mistake. Being able to just take the whole cavalry unit and just give it an order to charge is a lot easier than having to worry about taking out the specific unit from a brigade that happened to be cavalry just to maneuver it around. But you do you. You do whatever you think is appropriate for your particular tactics. This is how I set it up and the items that I use. Now, if you look through the different items that I have, this one, for example, I don't really use. Not that it really matters that much because of accuracy on rifles. You are compensating with a lot of accuracy by using special ammo. So that's not necessarily the big thing. It's just that I believe, for example, that the beer rations, like this one, it's just more suitable for what you want to get out of the cavalry unit. So there are trade-offs and things like that that I will consider while I'm setting up the unit. In the beginning, however, when you don't have that many resources as far as gold or access to different places that provides the best options for you, artillery, for example, extremely expensive. When you go in, it's going to be in the thousands, something like that. You are going to have to consider using whatever you have that you have picked up, right? So even if it has a certain negatives, it's better to have something on your unit than nothing on your unit. But once I start seeing that I have enough resources, then this is how I'm going to set it up. Pretty standard. I use that with all the different battles that I've done, and it provides pretty decent blend of the things that you want out of it. If you want to be a purist and say have every single brigade have the same equipment, that's not a bad idea necessarily. You can certainly set it up that way, especially if you consider that movement speed. There are some differences between units. If you get the elite units, there are going to be a little bit better stats overall because you can't really upgrade them, and they're special that way. Austrians seems to be a little bit more of a solid unit compared to the Hungarian. It's just what I feel. I might be completely wrong. The two best armies right now that I can speak of, that would be the Austrians, not Austrians, Prussians, and the English. The English seems to be very sturdy, large type of unit. And of course, the Prussians have the best artillery unit, the horse artillery. It's so fast. It's like 8 horses dragging your cannons into place, and you're going to be there lickety-split. You don't need to add any kind of movement equipment to it. You can just focus on doing as much damage as possible with those because they're just that fast. They're going to get into place, set up before the enemy can set theirs up, and you can then start hammering them before they unlimber their artillery and start trying to fight back. But that's it. You have a great day. You have a fantastic life. I hope everything works your way. And as I always say, until we meet again, adieu.